views and opinions of any of the guests of After Hours AM are not necessarily the views and opinions of After Hours AM, its hosts, its staff, or any of its affiliates.
Welcome to the After Hours program.
Are you ready?
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Now broadcasting live from the After Hours AM studio, Joel Sturgis and Eric Olson.
And welcome to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Eric Olson.
Good evening, Eric. How you doing, man?
Mostly, I'm doing good. We had some adventures in Techland last night. You did a remarkable editing job, preventing those who did not hear the show live. It was a quagmire.
Yeah, I did my best, worked my radio magic. We got through it, but it was an interesting show all in all. And so, of course, we were able to talk yet again about D.B. Cooper, which was actually very, very interesting. He's always an interesting fella. I mean, he's got more miles under his belt now after the fact that he ever did when he was alive. I'm pretty much guaranteeing that.
This perspective, the one we had last night, about what's his name, Kenny Christensen.
Yeah, yep, Kenny Christensen's the guy,
and his pal Bernie.
Yep,
the
Bernie and
accomplice.
Kenny. Exactly.
That tale, that angle, to me, makes the most sense.
It does.
Of any of the theories that I've heard. And I recalled it from seeing, essentially that same thing. There's been more information that's come out since that I think even reinforces it more. But I remember seeing that episode on Brad Meltzer's Decoded and being very convinced at that point about that story.
Well, I got a story for you really quick that happened today. Somebody called the studio line today, and I happened to be in the office. Generally during the day, if you leave a message on the studio line, I'll get back to you. Not a problem. But I happened to be there. I picked it up, and what do I hear? And this is so hilarious, no joke. A guy saying, I was D.B. Cooper.
Oh!
What? He says, yeah, you said to call in if you knew anything about D.B. Cooper. Well, I was D.B. Cooper. I said, really? I says, well, are you willing to let me record this call? I'd really rather not. I just want to let you know I am still around. Click.
Yeah, well, he'd have to be pretty old.
He would have to be very old. He did not sound like he was in his 80s. So, I'm just saying there's a lot of delusional folks out there. I'm not saying he was DB. I'm not saying he wasn't. I'm just saying a sure suspect. Come on now.
Maybe he really is D.B. Cooper, but has nothing to do with the guy who did the sky.
That could be true. That could be it too. I was thinking, well, maybe he shares the name. Maybe his name is Dan Cooper, but he just likes to play play jokes at people.
Exactly. Yes, he is.
He actually would be at that point.
Arguing with about it.
Exactly. That at that point he'd be correct. He would be D.B. Cooper. So. Anyhow, that was a great show last night. If you have not heard it, please excuse the editing job I did. I think I did a pretty fair job. And check it out. See what you guys think. Was Kenny Christensen D.B. Cooper? Get all the information and all of the evidence out there and make an opinion for yourself. Hey, do you remember, Eric, when we covered the California Bigfoot lawsuit? Remember when that lady was filing a lawsuit against California about Bigfoot? Remember that?
Yes,
okay,
I do.
Well, get this. California woman's Bigfoot is real lawsuit has been dismissed for now. Yeah, unfortunately, a lawsuit filed by a Crestline woman demanding that the state recognize a Sasquatch, a.k.a. Bigfoot, as the official species has been dismissed. The court dismissed the case at the request of the petitioner. Wow, she wanted it gone. Claudia Ackley on March 15th. Court records show Ackley said her attorney advised her to drop the lawsuit she filed on January 18th in San Bernardino Superior Court against the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Well,
because everyone thought she was nuts.
Everybody said, you're kind of you're special kind of crazy, ain't you? What you doing? Of course Bigfoot's not going to show up to court. What do you think he's going to do? He doesn't do that kind of stuff. Laws have no effect on Bigfoot.
He doesn't receive subpoenas.
He does not. I mean, how would you serve him? If you're a process server, where would you begin?
You'd wander around in the woods like everyone else.
Just wander there, look around, call, hey, Bigfoot, 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 hey, Bigfoot, Bigfoot. Yeah, hopefully he comes along. Or wave a bag of jacklinks. Evidently, he has affinity for jacklinks. So
apparently so, according to jacklinks.
Exactly, according to them. Well, anyhow, the lady goes on. She says, this is her statement. The attorney wanted me to stop it, and then for them to rewrite it, she said, adding that her attorney told her she had gone too far and forward with her original filing. She would have been eaten alive, he said, her attorney. So, that being said, on March 17th, a Facebook post where Ackley informed her friends, I only get one chance. I must do it correctly in order to proceed, she said. So it does sound like she's going to go ahead and try to get another bite at the apple, man. So we will see. Okay, Ackley 46 teamed up with a documentary filmmaker, Todd Standing, the man behind the Netflix film Discovering Bigfoot, in drafting the original lawsuit. Huh.
Did we have him on the show?
No, we've never had him on. We're going to have to get him on the show. I'd like to talk to Todd about this. We had a similar lawsuit filed in British Columbia, he says, and of course, where he resides. Standing said Tuesday that he and Ackley and paralegal wrote the first lawsuit themselves, which was not vetted by any lawyer. Hello? You know, if you're going to write a order or try to get something through, you'd think you might want to swing by the local attorney's office and go, does this look okay to you?
Because that's, what they do.
That is exactly what they do. There's so many things a lawyer has to do, appropriately, she goes on to say, or he goes on to say, rather, Todd. And we now have a team of lawyers, in the U.S., who are going to put this together.
Wow.
So I'm not quite sure
Is she using the Trump team?
Oh, sure. Well, most of them are unemployed at this point, so, maybe, they're just kicking around now, doing nothing, most of them.
They're drifting off.
It does say that she got a Texas-based attorney, Bobby Garcia, that could not be immediately reached for comment on this matter. So we will have to see, and we are going to. They're using DNA evidence collected on a tree from 2014 to prove the existence of Bigfoot. By the way, that in case you're curious what their evidence is, that's their evidence, right there.
Do we know how the DNA tested?
Let's see. It goes. She explains Sasquatch, including testimony. Okay, she's going to use testimony from wildlife biologists, wilderness experts, police forensic officers, and, of course, the DNA collected in 2014 as her case to go forward with recognizing Bigfoot as California's #1 crypto.
So what does she gain from this? It's not like...
I'm not... I think... I want to say... I'm going on a limb here. I want to say that maybe Ackley is maybe not exactly all upstairs. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out. I could be completely wrong, but from what she's saying, her statements just seem very scattered.
Well, and again, if you're going to pursue something like this, you have to take it seriously and do it correctly.
Well, Ackley says, I suspect it will be dismissed for a lack of evidence if we present it as is.
I imagine that's true.
I would imagine there's a whole lot of lacking of evidence in this situation. Meaning, is there even a Bigfoot? That would be the first evidence we'd want to ascertain is there indeed a Bigfoot? And then maybe go on from there. So.
Well, I guess what ultimately she is trying to do is to make that very point. I mean, isn't that ultimately what her goal is?
That sure seems to be it. That seems to be her goal, is to make a point of getting this law passed and to be somebody maybe in the Bigfoot community. I don't know what her end game is for why she's doing it. Maybe she's just a conscientious citizen and wants everyone to know her love and her admiration for the big hairy fella.
Now, is this one of the ones whose been up close and personal with a Bigfoot?
She doesn't say that anywhere in this article, and I don't remember the last article we read. She doesn't claim. Okay, accurately does claim she did have an encounter with 3 Sasquatches in Lake Arrowhead last March while hiking with her 2 daughters. Okay, well, they are documented claims on record. Okay, there are documented claims on record of Bigfoot sightings in the mountain resort community. So, I guess she saw a bunch of them with her daughters. They were hanging out, probably doing their whole picnic thing. And then, of course, they saw the Bigfoot, and that's why she's beating the old drum of Bigfoot being real.
My brother used to live in Lake Arrowhead.
Oh, yeah? Did he see a Bigfoot?
He has not mentioned that.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe he should look. You should put him on the case. Or he's not there now, right? He doesn't.
No, he isn't there now.
Interesting.
He moved down the mountain and into the desert.
Well, maybe I bet she's enjoying that a little bit more. Maybe. Who knows? Anyhow,
he seems to like both. He and my younger brother, who's actually now here in Ohio visiting. He's visiting my mother right now.
Oh, that's very cool.
They go skiing together every year because they have disposable income and no children.
Oh, well, that's the key right there. No children. That means they have lots of disposable income.
Yeah.
So, I remember those days. It was great.
I vaguely remember those days.
Oh, yes. It's been a long time for me, too, since I had those days. But I did at one time, and I do miss them from time to time. But anyhow, do you remember the big old case that happened that we've talked about in the 1950s, the hikers vanishing on that, what is that?
Diaghilev Pass.
Yep.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember that? And so anyhow, evidently there's a new case going on of hikers missing again.
Really?
In an area of Russia's Ural Mountains that have become infamous for the 1959 incident involving the mysterious deaths of 9 hikers, has seemingly claimed another victim, a Russian tourist visiting the site known as, what is it, Eric?
I'm not looking at the spelling, but it's something like Diaghilev
Dyatlov Pass. Reportedly went missing in the remote location sometime in February. It was not until the end of the month when Alexander Andeev, there it is, was supposed to return from his solo expedition. Okay, would you go to a place that they call Death Mountain by yourself? I don't know. I'd veer from that, going by myself, doing a solo, but this guy evidently decided to do a solo. That friends and family realized that something had gone awry. A search and rescue mission was subsequently launched, but it would appear that the endeavor failed to produce any answers as the whereabouts and the reports of where this guy is. They can't find him anywhere. Anywhere, not even a trace, not even a smidgen, not even a speck.
Oh, boy.
Not even an empty Mountain Dew can. Nothing.
No remnant of his existence.
Nothing.
No, I would not do that by myself. That's just so unwise. You don't go into the wilderness by yourself.
No.
And you don't go swimming by yourself.
Exactly.
That everyone knows. Because anything can happen. You get hurt, right. You hit your head, you pass out, you get sick.
You fall down. All that bad stuff can happen. You're absolutely correct. Now, okay, having been now gone since mid-February, the man's chances of having survived this long, of course, in this harsh conditions of this mountain pass are pretty remote, they said. Very slim or outright non-existent. So, eerily, Andreev is the third person to have either died or have gone missing in this pass, since that time, since the original hikers.
It's a dangerous area.
It is a very
all the
dangerous
same
area.
Things that may have happened to the original guys.
Exactly.
You remember they were talking about some kind of weird, what was it, like sonic induced, landslide.
Avalanche.
Avalanche,
Yep.
That's the word. Yes, very good. Avalanche was one thing, and again, yes, very harsh conditions. This is the middle of winter. You're talking in the mountains in Russia. Holy cats!
Yeah.
Think how bad that has to be.
Well, yeah, and I don't imagine that the Russian officials are in any hurry to really look for this guy. You know what I'm saying? You know, something strikes me. They didn't seem to have a lot of just an article, the way it's worded, they really didn't look that hard. They're like, well, the guy should have known better. What the hell is he doing? He shouldn't have gone up there by himself. Really is kind of, other articles have said that. But really, it's strange because that original group of hikers in 59, there's lots of theories, including an attack by Yeti.
Right.
A lot of that. There's UFO speculation. There's a lot of strange things. And they made a movie called Devil's Pass recently that kind of chronicles a group going up there, much like the original. And same circumstances. They get attacked, things like that. So it'll be interesting. I've always been interested in that area.
Well, it is a really mysterious and strange case. It's kind of, macabre in the way they were found. And
Sure.
they're all kind of twisted and but yet not decomposed because it was so cold,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And some of them were naked, but apparently that's not uncommon when people are freezing to death. It feels like heat, and they strip off all their clothes and run outside.
I can attest to that. Well,
die even more quickly.
Years ago, when I was on the search and rescue team, it was not uncommon to find nearly nude people every now and again, because the hypothermia would take over, and next thing you know, they're getting hot because of the hypothermia, and they're stripping down, and then they succumb later on. But yeah, it's not unheard of. In fact, it's very common.
So there's that angle. Remember you had that picture, which really, really kind of looked, pretty strongly from the angle of the photograph, like some sort of, Yeti or Bigfoot creature. But now I have heard recently, I probably just this renewed attention on it as this guy, disappeared. I'm guessing is what brought it back into the news. But they've analyzed that picture and then compared it to some others taken of the group, and it was pretty clearly it was one of the guys from the group just out, away from camp, probably just taking a pee or something.
Yeah, kind of slipped away, did whatever. One thing, it's been well documented, my phobia of dolls, right? Everyone knows I'm afraid of haunted dolls.
And
parrots. So much so that our listeners rib me once in a while by threatening to send me haunted dolls in the mail. And no, I do not want them. Thank you very much. But this video that's out there, watch the creepy moment Chucky-like devil doll follows camera with spooky eyes. Normally, I try not to report on these things because they freak me the hell out. But in this video, I watched it, man. It is creepy as all hell. It is creepy. You sit there and you see this doll, right? It's an ugly doll to begin with. But then they're panning the camera in front of it, and its eyes are following the camera.
Could it be some sort of optical illusion?
Well, I'm sure that there's an explanation. I'm sure that it's that, or they put it on, and maybe they put some type of, radio control mechanism inside of it, or what have you. Obviously, those are all plausible explanations. But it's very strange. See, these things freak me the hell out, these dolls. And I don't even know why I subjected myself to this video, but I'm telling you what, a lot of people are watching this video. It's already up to, like 300,000 views or what have you? Yeah, 341,000 views in just 4 days.
And look how creepy. I guess he's in a cemetery?
Yeah, they got him in a cemetery and is showing him off. Like, look at our creepy doll. We love our creepy doll. The doll.
That is a creepy doll. What's up with the Eddie Munster widow's peak?
I've noticed that a lot on these creepy dolls. I don't know if it's like the new look of the season or something for these creepy dolls, but a lot of them have got the widow's peak going on. Crazy is what that is. The doll is reportedly recorded by a woman in Brazil, and it since appeared in Mexico media. Users of social media were spooked out by the video, with one commenting, "Doll of the devil." So, other comments claim the doll's eyes were nothing more than a trick of the senses, which is probably the case, more than likely. with one user writing, it is an optical illusion. That's clear to us. That whole thing, just like you brought up. But nonetheless, it's creepy, and I thought it was noteworthy because I really get freaked out by dolls. So,
hey, creepy is creepy.
Creepy is creepy. I have been near creepy before, and that is creepy. So, we got that going for ourselves. So, I don't know. What do you feel about the creepy dolls?
Well, I think it's possible that, like in any inanimate object or even just the environment itself, when you get into the whole, piezoelectric effect and all that stuff, where that energy can be somehow imprinted and even perhaps, stored in inanimate objects, be they rocks or water or a doll for that matter. So I do think it's possible. I think it's a lot less likely that it would be the kind of Chucky thing where it's an actual personality.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
where it's actually, resides within this thing. I think that's a lot less likely. But, I think it's possible that some sort of entity, some sort of supernatural or paranormal energy could, somehow, some way impact, influence a doll, like perhaps any other object. It's just creepier with a doll because dolls are uncanny, because dolls
they're crazy.
They look like people.
They're human analogs, is what they are.
It's exactly what they are.
So it's a representation.
That's why they're
of us.
uncanny.
Exactly. Hey, do you remember a while back where we had the realtor that advertised the home was not being haunted in Texas?
Yes.
Well, another guy now, a Muskowa cottage comes within 30 days, okay? Get this. He's guaranteeing his house is zombie-free.
Well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he says it comes with a 30-day zombie-free guarantee if you buy this house.
But what happens if if the hordes arrive on day 31?
Well, I think you're kind of SOL at that point.
So
at that point you're kind of
limited warranty.
It's a very limited warranty, and it would seem that really, let's just be honest. I don't see the undead hordes coming alive within the next 30 days, personally. So, well, anyhow, it goes on to say this cottage comes equipped with all the modern conveniences a family would ever need to survive the zombie apocalypse. 5 bedrooms, a loft, and a bunkle. What is that? A bunkie? What is that? What is a bunkie?
I assume they mean
Bunkie.
I assume they mean bunk bed.
Yeah, I would imagine 2 kitchens, and baths, and a sandy beach with a clear view of the water. But buyers just weren't biting on this island cottage Matthew Swan is selling, even though, well, it sleeps 26, dead or alive.
Wow.
Yeah, the 63-year-old Misago man applied some brain to the matter. Reasoning that people are drawn to things that frighten them, and zombies being one of them. He has posted a billboard just north of Brechin, Ontario, along Highway 12, advertising his certified zombie-free cottage.
Outstanding. Well, he's an entrepreneur, and he's out there beating the bushes.
Well, I like what he says. People are worried about many things these days. One of the last things they want to be worried about is zombies.
Who can argue with that?
But how is he going to enforce the guarantee, though? Is he going to show up with a shotgun and dispatch them? And what do you get with the guarantee?
You know what? I would say in lieu of that particular warranty, just give me money.
Yeah, well, yeah, because then he goes on to say the sale comes with a 30-day, 30-night guarantee. After that, the new owner will have to follow their own protocol to ensure the Z-free status.
Yes, well, you do want to maintain that, don't you?
Well, you do, he says, but I will go over it in detail with them. Plus, it comes with a manual, he promised. Huh. Interesting. So, If you're looking for a zombie-free habitat, that would be the place to buy. So look them up and buy it if you'd like to. And you get the 30-day guarantee. Let us know if the zombies do show up before it's over, though. Just so we
I want to hear about it.
Just so we know. So anyhow, we got one more story here. This one comes out of Windsor, Ontario, Canada. Windsor Bomb Squad called in after ghost hunting device forgotten in a cultural center. Basically, they thought it was a bomb. It turns out that a small black box with a dangling red wire and a little blue light, well, it piqued, left by investigators, it piqued the interest of the Windsor Bomb Squad Tuesday. Yeah, it's not actually dangerous, at least not to the living, I guess, but the Windsor Police Explosive Disposal Unit were called in. Wow, to Mackenzie Hall around 7:15 p.m. to investigate the suspicious package. Police determined the package was safe and that there was no evidence of explosive materials.
Well, they don't watch paranormal TV.
Well, evidently they don't, so they go on kind of say that the suspicious package was seen, and of course the general public really is not going to know what a ghost hunting device is, by and large, right? Most of us wouldn't. We wouldn't go, oh, wait a minute, we didn't recognize that. That's a ghost hunting thing. So, and of course they left it there, and I would imagine the spokesman for the Distel Paranormal Society said that the little black box belonged to them. He said that he didn't even realize that the EMF detector, short for electronic magnetic sensor, was missing after society completed a sweep for spirits at the hall last Friday. When police showed up at his door saying, "Is this yours?" he absolutely had to say yes. I said, unfortunately, he can't give it back. They cannot give it back to him because it's been destroyed. But it's okay. It's been replaced at his own expense.
Well, I guess when he left it, that's when he sort of lost claim to it.
Exactly. Now, here's the thing now. If you're a ghost hunting team, that's one of the most important things is to make sure you grab your things, right? I mean, grab the toys you came with. Make sure that's all picked up. Otherwise, your things may be destroyed by the bomb squad. So
I'll tell you what I tell over and over and over and over my two very absent-minded teenagers, never leave anywhere without thinking about what you may have left behind, and check your pockets. Make sure you have your phone and your keys and your wallet and whatever else you may have come with. Your head. Make sure you have your head.
Exactly.
Every
Great
time
point.
you leave. And when you're, especially when you're on the road, like you're staying in a motel, I mean, people think I'm nuts. The kids saw me, in action last year when we were in the Pacific Northwest, right about exactly this time of year, about a year ago.
Yeah.
We were in Oregon and Washington. And so every time we were leaving, wherever we had been, I would do a very close check, and under the beds, always very important to check under the bed.
Yeah, do. You never know.
Check under the bedding, because things can get wrapped up and mixed up, under the covers. And you got to just check. And if you bring your own pillows and stuff like that, you got to remember that, because that's very easy to leave and forget and get mixed in with their pillows and all. So just be responsible and remember before you leave anywhere to check.
What I do, whenever I go to a hotel room, the first thing I do is a dead hooker check. Make sure there's not one of those hanging around, because, I've heard horror stories. And that includes checking in the bed because they like to hide them in the box spring. I'm wise to your game. All right? Wherever there's a dead hooker, it's going to be in the box spring.
Wily dead hooker.
Exactly. Number two, the second thing I check for, of course, sheets with a black light to make sure they're not too grody. You know what I'm saying. You know exactly where I'm going.
Don't want to know.
Well, I know, but that's just me. But then again, I also make sure I do an inventory checklist. Do we have everything? Exactly. Right there. Do we have everything? And if we have everything, we can go to our merry way. So that is what I do when I hit a hotel room. And remember, number one, dead hooker check. Number two, black light. I call it the black light probing of the bedding. You got to know what you're sleeping on. You got to know. And plus, you never know. There could be bed bugs, and they'll also illuminate them as well. Exactly. That is just crazy on my part. I get that. But I have been there, done that. I have not found a dead hooker yet, thank God. I'm 100% dead hooker free. That being said, we got to run to break. We come back. It's time for your America's Most Haunted Headlines. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. My student loan is totally paid off.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either. I paid more than the minimum each month, and soon enough, it was gone.
So you're just giving up?
Giving up on what?
The life of luxury. Egyptian cotton, caviar Thursdays, designer everything.
What are you talking about?
Our plan. What happened to winning the lottery and mastering the art of the perfect mimosa? Hosting galas, wearing enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacationing in the French Riviera, and then buying it.
I just thought maybe it was time to prepare for my future. You know, set some financial goals, make some smart investments, open a 401k.
Financial goals? Investments? A 401k? You are horrifying right now. Listen, if winning the lottery were easy, everyone would do it.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me, like always,
Eric Olson.
Eric, man, it is time for America's Most Haunted Headlines, brought to you by America's Most Haunted. That's our super duper duper cool website where you can check out all the articles, check out upcoming shows, check out past shows, basically connect with us as well. Again, you know, a lot of big, great response to our newest co-host. That'd be Miss Heidi Hollis that joined me on Tuesday. We had a great show. Of course, we kind of went all over the paranormal landscape. All that, including the D.B. Cooper show last night, are all up for download. Grab them, and tonight's episode will be up shortly after we're done airing this as well. So grab all those downloads, and if you haven't heard any of them, binge on them over the weekend. Binge away, my friends. Binge away.
And we had her as a guest on the show last Thursday, and that was lots of fun and very interesting. And she has a very nice sense of humor and keeps things balanced because, man, she's working in dark territory. If she didn't have that sense of humor, I think she'd lose her mind.
I agree with you. I mean, you know, the shadow people thing is crazy stuff. It can be very scary, and you know, and we've all had those brushes with the odd and dark, but man, she seems to kind of have a little more than most.
I would say she has way more than most.
So, you know, she has that going for her. But that being said, if you are not a member of Twitter, or if you are a member of Twitter, it don't matter. Why don't you go on over to Twitter and search out AM Haunted. That's the official Twitter page of America's Most Haunted, After Hours AM Radio. And, of course, right there you can join and follow along with 464,000 other close friends right along with us. So be a part of that and follow along.
Yeah, it's all things paranormal, spooky, and amazement. And the other reason to go check it out on the site, not just listen to us, is because then you can see the pictures, because a lot of these are very visual. Plus, you can follow the links if we tweeted up an article, and on and on. All right, so here we go. All right, so I'm sure you've heard about, and I'm sure you've seen the picture of this weird, freakish little character. It
looks fake.
It really does. Mummy that was found in the Atacama Desert of Chile. Well, it has now been officially determined that it is a very heavily damaged in the womb, mutated human infant.
Well, first I feel sorry for this human infant, having to be that damaged and look that way, but it does make sense, and it is creepy. It really is.
Very, very creepy.
And they were trying to say it was a alien. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's an alien, or it's some sort of weird hybrid. No, it was just a very, very unfortunately damaged human infant who probably didn't live more tan a day or two. They said it after birth.
I was a damaged infant as well, but that was for a whole nother reason.
I mean, this one has a weird, all kinds of oddities. Weird number of ribs. You got the very much enlarged head. Lots of problems.
A lot of issues, and it's very creepy looking, but also it's got a sad tale to go with it. That poor little fella or girl.
Yeah.
Girl or guy.
I think it's a girl. I think they determined it was also a girl.
Poor little child. That's kind of sad at the same time.
So if you check out twitter.com/amhaunted, you can see an actual picture of what we're talking about. This strange little... figure.
Craziness, man. Craziness.
All right, and this winter has just been madness, and it's still going, even though technically we're in spring.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this. Look at the density of that snowfall from Frankfurt, Germany.
That is pretty thick snow right there. There is definitely some flakage going on.
That is coming down. It's a really cool picture. It looks almost like a Jackson Pollock.
Yeah, it does. It kind of does. That, or it looks like a really, really bad Head and Shoulders commercial.
Yeah,
do you have flaking going on?
Wow. I mean, that is densely packed. You can barely see through. There's two figures kind of running, it looks like, or they're hunched against the wind and the weather, and they're on either a road or something. But it is very hard to see, but it's a really cool picture.
It sure is fun, though, when we get snow like that around here. It's actually kind of enjoyable once in a while.
Well, it's fun to play,
but then
it can go away.
Yeah, then it can go away, but then what comes with it is horrible roads, higher heating bills, all that kind of good stuff in wintertime. So it can go away quite quickly. That'd be awesome.
Sliding off the road.
Mm-hmm. Good times, good times.
Calls from your 18-year-old daughter at 3 a.m.
Oh, you've had that happen to you, I hear. Interesting. Was she going in the ditch or something?
Right in the ditch.
Right in the ditch. And she's 18, young driver. That does happen, unfortunately, though. It's happened to me. I'm sure
it
happened
to
you.
everyone.
Yep.
It happens to everyone.
Yep.
That was not her fault. It was just unfortunate. All right. Have you heard of this service called Movie Zoot?
No. Tell me all about Movie Zoot.
Movie Zoot is just yet another streaming service, and they are featuring right now some classic late 50s, early 60s, kind of what they call Z movies, which just means, they were C movies at the time, and
now they really suck.
Well, they've become, shall we say, cult classics.
That is true. I mean, I suppose like The Tingler and other kind of shows, movies, but kind of fall into that. The 1950s.
Carnival of Souls is certainly considered a classic.
Yeah.
It is creepy.
Did you ever see the movie Freaks, though?
Oh, yeah.
Even to this day, that really weirds me out.
Sure. Well, you know how much that influenced that season, the Carnival season of American Horror.
Oh, yeah.
Freak show, I should say.
Yeah, quite a bit. And that movie, though, I mean, they used at that time, actual sideshow performers.
Did.
I mean, it was no holds barred.
They weren't people pretending to be freaks.
They were freaks. Yeah, they're the real deal, the genuine article. No makeup involved.
Very creepy. Yeah, that was at what? Todd Browning? Is that
Yeah.
the,
That was in 1950s or early 60s?
Oh, I think it
whatever.
was even early.
It's pretty old. It's pretty old, yeah. So
Anyway, of these films, they are streaming on Movie Zoot. If you're a horror buff, you may want to go check it out and just check out Movie Zoot.
Sure.
It's moviezoot.com. These 4 films are Circus of Fear, The Day of the Triffids. That's another kind of a classic. I Bury the Living, and then by far the best of the lot is Carnival of Souls, which I just saw recently, and it is still very, very creepy. It's low-budget movie.
Yeah,
it's black and white,
Yep.
but man, it is very disconcerting. It's actually one of the better.
it holds up, is what you're saying.
It does. It holds up well.
Yeah, well, one thing really quickly before we move on to speak about movies, I saw Zach Bagans' new movie, Demon House.
Right. How is it?
I have mixed feelings on it. It wasn't the most horrible show I've seen ever, and it wasn't the best ever, but there's some, you kind of have to suspend your belief at some points, of wanting to question further, because this all centers around the Gary, Indiana house that he'd bought that was allegedly home to 200, not one, but 200 demons. And how do you
how do you fit them in there?
There's anyone's guess, man. I'm not sure. I guess a shoehorn and Vaseline, that'd be about the only way you can get them all in there. But then, of course, after it's all said and done, and the movie's running, and of course, everyone, the thrills and chills and the storytelling. Really, no paranormal investigation to speak of in this movie. By the way, I was surprised. Very, very little. In the end of the movie, it shows them tearing down the house, and the reason why he tore it down, other than grabbing a few artifacts for his own museum, is so nobody would ever endure the demon house.
Well, I guess he claimed to have had pretty horrifying experiences.
That's
there.
what he
Did
says.
Talk about that in the movie?
He did talk about a little bit, and of course, he really focused upon the family that was there at that time, that lived there before he bought the home. And then, of course, their children were allegedly possessed by demons. And I guess the best hook of the movie is it wasn't him saying it. It was actual police. It was social workers, doctors, all sorts of people that you would expect would not make up a tale like that, all vouching that they saw, wall walking and speaking in foreign languages they didn't know, things like that. So really, if you got time to kill, you want to kill an hour and a half of your life, there's worse ways to do it. So,
Well, I will definitely be checking it out. Follow the career of good old Zach.
It was available on YouTube up until recently, till someone pulled it down. But I do believe you got a screener link, didn't you?
Yes.
I did not get that link, so if you want to forward me that link at some point.
I think I'll whip that on you.
Yeah, that way you can see the unadulterated one. I mean, the one that doesn't have all the, little bleeps and boops that they like to put on YouTube. So anyhow, moving along, let's go on to the cookbook. It looks like we got cookbook.
Yeah,
going.
this comes from an interesting article in Atlas Obscura of all kinds of old school cookbooks that this author, this woman, I think, have collected. And her favorite is her Dracula cookbook. But think about it. Dracula drinks blood.
Yes, he does. I don't see him cooking.
He doesn't spend a lot of time, whipping things up in the kitchen.
I've never seen Dracula stay around a hibachi grill.
Never, not once. So what it turns out the book really is it's recipes from Transylvania.
Interesting. Okay, I would imagine they'd have some pretty good dining experiences there. Pretty good food.
I think it's pretty similar to Hungarian food, so lots of paprika.
Never mind, you're right. Hungarian food does rely a lot on paprika.
Good old paprika.
And it's not bad. Paprika isn't bad.
No,
it's
a
good spice. As far as spices go, it's not the spiciest, but it's good.
It's a good mid-level spice.
It's no lemon pepper, but it is pretty good.
You realize that lemon pepper is merely a blend of lemon and pepper.
Oh my God, you're blowing my mind over here. I never would
Did
put
you know
that together. I kind of thought that by the name, lemon pepper.
There's a clue.
They kind of blend it together, and it's tasty. I'll give them that. The makers of lemon pepper. It's a tasty.
They chose their name well.
They did choose their name very well.
Chose wisely.
I'm an amateur chef in the kitchen, by the way. I pride myself on being really a pit master. I love barbecuing food.
I like barbecuing.
I make a Texas pulled pork better than anyone I've ever met. If I do say so myself.
Well, I do know how to barbecue. I'm not a very good cook, but I'm a pretty good barbecuer. Not bad.
That's all you need to know right there.
You know, my wife just hands it to me. So it's not like I've formulated anything. She just hands it and says, cook it.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what goes on for me with the barbecue is they get it ready, I throw in the grill, and I act like it's a big deal, but all it is flipping a piece of meat. I mean, come on. Let's just be honest.
That's so true.
Yeah.
But I do keep a close eye on it.
Well, you have to. That's the beauty of it. Standing outside drinking a Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Is that the required barbecue?
I don't know if that is the required or not. I just remember people in my youth standing around a barbecue drinking the PBR.
PBR. Sucking down PBRs, are they now?
They were. And I couldn't have any because I wasn't old enough to partake in the PBR. But I do remember them doing that. Okay, now it does look like, and I kind of want to talk about this, a Deadpool 2, man.
Oh, yes. So are you a fan of Deadpool?
I am a big fan of the first Deadpool. I thought it was very entertaining.
It was funny.
It was funny. I mean, it was definitely a hard R. I mean, it wasn't like...
Oh, very hard R.
It was not one you want to bring the kiddies to, but as far as superhero movies go, and I was looking at a write-up they did about the first Deadpool. Do you know that it outgrossed every other superhero movie?
Is it number one now?
It is number one. It outgrossed all of them.
Wow. Well, I know it did very well. It's very well reviewed. This one, of course, no one's seen the movie yet, but apparently there's some rumblings from the set that this one isn't coming along as well as the first one did, but we'll have to see. So, we got a link to the trailer, and it's equally violent and funny, just like the first one.
Just like that one. But the thing of it is they always have the sophomore slump. Always, it almost seems like the second one's never as good as the first.
Very true.
You know, Back to the Future, same thing. They had the sophomore slump, a lot of people would say. And then the third one, where we went to the Wild Wild West, they were happy because that was pretty ingenious and pretty good. So that's probably the same thing going on here. But it's worth our time to watch, I guarantee it. I'm sure of that.
Oh, yeah. So there's a trailer out now. So go check that out. We got the link to it. Go check out the Deadpool 2 trailer. And there's some really funny images from it. There's a Bob Ross, Deadpool as Bob Ross. There's Deadpool up in the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel.
Oh yeah.
There's Deadpool as the dancer from Flashdance.
You know, Ryan Reynolds channels Deadpool so flawlessly.
Yeah, that's his character.
You know what I mean?
Huh?
He just does it just to the point where, you know, I mean, just funny as hell. It's just a very they picked the right actor for that. And it really came together. A lot of people love the movie. I love the Deadpool movie. I used to read the comics when I was a kid, and they were just as gritty and a lot of fun to read. So, you know, there you go. Check out Deadpool 2.
Success!
Yep.
Success!
Check out Deadpool 2 in a theater near you at some point.
I think it's coming up later this year. All right, speaking of movies, monster movies coming out, there is a sequel to Pacific Rim called Pacific Rim Uprising. Did you like Pacific Rim?
Not necessarily.
I thought it was really rather repetitive and drawn out.
Yeah, I was not a big fan of the first one. I mean, the second one I will not check out. I have not even watched The Shape of Water yet, and it's the same guy. Right.
You
know, so it's Del Toro that made it, but...
He is not directing the new one.
No, he's not.
He's a producer, but he did direct the first one.
Kind of remind me of a weird way, like a poor man's Power Rangers.
Well,
you know what I mean? How they kind of put
Godzilla.
Exactly. It was a hodgepodge.
Transformers.
Yes. It really, for me anyway, it was not my cup of tea. But hey, you know, some people did like it.
I was rather disappointed. By the way, speaking of The Shape of Water, we did watch that on our new 4K TV.
Ooh, how's the 4K treating you? Any different?
Loving it. Oh, yeah.
Oh, big difference from HD, huh?
Huge difference.
Interesting.
Yes.
I might have
Much
to.
sharper and clearer and much greater sense of depth. It's pretty astonishing stuff.
I was thinking about buying one of those curved ones that you see around.
Yes.
The curved 4K TV. I looked at a 70-inch. I was thinking, well, go big or go home. Until I saw the price tag, and I decided I'm going to go home.
Yeah, they're not cheap, and don't be. If it is cheap, then you're not getting high quality.
Yeah, this one was what, right around $3,000 or so. The one I was looking at, you know.
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
I believe it.
You
Sure.
know, they're kind of expensive, and of course, you know, my wallet's going. No, not today. Not today.
That's a lot. For
That's
TV.
investment right there. That's a big
That's
investment.
a lot for TV. Anyway, back to the Pacific Rim Uprising. It is coming out this weekend, and it is predicted that finally, after 5 weeks, which is a record apparently, at least for a long time, at the #1 box office spot for Black Panther, they are now predicting it will finally come in second to Pacific Rim Uprising this weekend.
You know, it's been a really slow spring for movies, though. You know, and the Black Panther thing, don't get me wrong, it's a great movie, but, you know.
Really is.
It's time that something's going to overtake it. But I also sat back and wondered, did they forget about other African-American superheroes in comics? Because they were saying that he was the only one, like the first one. No, that's not true.
No, it isn't true.
That is far from the truth. There was a lot of heavily influenced African-American content as far as superheroes go. So, you know, check into it a little bit. I mean, heck, even someone would argue Shaft himself.
I think you'd have, you got to kind of add a lot of caveats to make it come out to that. But, I mean, it was certainly the most black, successful, worldwide film ever. I said almost everyone in the cast is African American.
When are we going to get to the point where we just say it's a good movie, we don't have to add the caveat of black?
Well, I think
I
think this one went a long way to making that happen.
You know what I mean? Because it's just a good movie. It is
just
a very good film.
Normalized. It is. It really was well made. I enjoyed it a lot. Really did.
You know, I mean, I don't want them to cheapen it by, you know, obviously I don't want to get racial here, but I think that the actors deserve more respect than that.
I agree.
I think
we don't want to say things like, what a great movie for a black
Well, exactly. I think that they did a wonderful job, well acted. And I think in some ways and I've seen the expression on the actor's face when they say a black superhero.
Yes.
Well, they almost look disappointed because, you know, that minimizes.
Just a superhero.
Exactly. Just a great Marvel comic movie. And that's where it should begin and end. Okay, that's my soapbox moment.
I think you're right. I agree entirely. And hopefully the success of the film on all levels, critical, popular, not just in the U.S., worldwide, will put some of that to rest. You know, it's just a movie. It's a great movie.
It is a very good movie. It's very, very well done, and I suggest everyone take a peek at it. But getting back to The Shape of Water, I have not watched that yet because I'm scared to.
Good. Really, really
good. Okay, then I will do that this weekend.
Really amazing. We watched it on demand. It wasn't in 4K. It was just in HD.
Oh, the old school HD. Oh my God,
old school HD. Yep.
Yay, old hell, man. I remember my parents had a black and white television. So
I do.
You know. So anyhow, very, very cool.
Really, really good.
Good. That's what I wanted to hear.
Check it out.
Because I saw Pan's Labyrinth and I wasn't too impressed with that. I mean, the visuals were great, but the story was a little weak. So I was a little hesitant.
It was tough. That poor girl.
Yeah, it was a hard movie to endure.
No.
Yep, exactly. All right, sir, where are we going next? Where's our next place we're going?
Great image. Speaking of images, and as I looked at this picture, which has a vampire bat, some sort of ghoul, a flying witch, some sort of like hand reaching out across the sky. It has regular bats. It's got a haunted house, and it has a moon with an eye in it. And it occurred to me, this is like every nightmare anyone has ever had in one picture.
You can never go wrong with those things in one picture.
All of those things
come together to make a creepy tapestry of goodness.
That is, I guess it's supposed to be sort of a quintessential Halloween shot, but it's kind of beyond Halloween. I mean, it has Halloween images, but but it also has kind of other kinds of images as well. I think it's nightmarish rather than Halloween.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So anyone that is not looking at it with us, go on over to AM Haunted over there at Twitter. Follow along with the 464,000 followers we got over there. Thank you all for following us. And mainly Eric, because he's the one that does all the hard work on the Twitter, by the way. And keeping everything entertaining and writing all the cool articles. But go on over there, check it out, and look at these astounding images right along with us if you get a chance. Absolutely do that.
Speaking of images, I just loved the old Abbott and Costello monster movies.
Who doesn't? I mean,
I don't know.
Do you
if anyone
remember?
doesnth, they're knuckleheads.
Well, yeah, I mean, come on. Those are great movies. And they
so
were
funny.
And they were a safe horror film for our formative years when I was a kid, right?
Exactly.
That was something I was introduced to horror very slowly through Abbott and Costello. By having like Dracula and the Wolfman and Frankenstein kind of introduced in a non-threatening way. And then I wrapped myself up to, like American Werewolf in London and these other great films. But that was kind of the gateway drug, so to speak, of horror movies for this guy.
Well, me too, really. And because they go all the way back to the 40s, right? I believe.
They do. They go a long, long, long way. And
because they're so far back, the actors, playing the various monsters are the universal monsters. They're the actors
originals. Yeah, they're the real deal.
It's Bela Lugosi. I don't think it was Boris Karloff. I think this one is this picture we're seeing of Frankenstein. I think that's Glenn Strange, who came along after. But
Sure.
It's still iconic Frankenstein and the classic Abbott and Costello. So funny picture, or great picture. They're looking up to him as he looms over them, and just reminded me how much I enjoy those. And I have all those now on DVD. I think we're going to go back and start watching them.
I was actually hoping in some small way that they were going to remake them, but then another small way I was hoping they wouldn't. The Universal films.
Right.
Because they're so iconic. How do you recapture that moment in horror history?
Well, they have not gotten off to a good start because that Tom Cruise Mummy movie that came out last year,
was
disaster.
It was not very good. I saw that, and it was not very good at all. I would not put that in I was hoping Brendan Fraser would come back at that point because I think he would have done better. At least it would have been a continuation of an already established franchise.
I actually liked all three of his Mummy movies, especially the first two. By the time they went to China and he was in it less, it was more about his son. That wasn't quite as good. But those first two are great. I love them. They're hilarious and creepy and spooky.
They were. So now if you guys have not ever visited our website, by the way, that's America's-Most-Haunted. Check that out if you're hearing us via podcast or you're just listening across the various live locations we have. If you have not ever stopped in there, take a peek. We got some very, very cool articles for you guys to read and be a part of. And, of course, man, they stretch the gamut for years. We have years of articles up along with content. There's several hundred just shows waiting for you to download as well. So check that out over at America's-Most-Haunted.com. Man, I'm stumbling and bumbling on the words. It is so dry here. I cannot wait for winter to leave, my friend. Cannot wait for it to leave.
Agree. We still have one of the humidifiers rolling. At one point we had two humidifiers going round the clock. Still have one going, but yeah, like you, we are technically into spring, but it doesn't feel like it yet.
It is. And again, if you guys missed last Tuesday, we installed a brand new co-host, and that would be Miss Heidi Hollis joined me on Tuesday. And boy, we had a lot of fun. We kind of hit everything in the paranormal, but really specifically, we went dark. We talked about the demonic is what we did a lot of the 2 hours. We ended up talking about my own experience where I had to brush the demonic. And of course, that's every time I tell that tale, I get goosebumps. And I tell it in all its scary, gory, and glory over there at the show. And a little bit of it was gory because it got a little physical on me, man. It was a very scary moment in my life. But check that all out. And, of course, check out last night's show where we dealt with D.B. Cooper. And we came to the conclusion that Christensen was... Kenny Christensen may have very well been D.B. Cooper, and there's some very compelling evidence to that effect. We have to run a break, but when we come back, we have a great guest on tap. Like always, we have Laura Bickle with us tonight, and she's the writer of the Witch Creek Wildlands novel. Don't go anywhere. We're going to go paranormal on you guys. Be right back right after this.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard. Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey? Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. You know, 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your Smokey on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Only in the forest can you see this. But nothing beats the moment you see that.
Cool!
That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. And you might just see this. Visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Do you have a question for our guest tonight? Don't feel like calling the show? Not a problem. Email those questions to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Again, that's afterhoursam@gmail.com. Welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me, as always,
Eric Olson.
Hey, Eric, we have a great guest on tap, and this one is really kind of cool because I love Yellowstone National Park. I don't know if I ever told you that. I love it there. I enjoy it there immensely. And there's
that is
just
amazing. I do too.
There's just something mystical about that area. You know what I mean? There's just something about that park. And, of course, I will step aside, but I just want to throw that out there. And if you guys have never been to Yellowstone, make that a point this summer to get there. It is truly a magical area.
It's so prehistoric. It feels, Jurassic with these geysers and weird colors from the various minerals and whatnot in the waters, and all of the wildness and the bears and the it's an amazing place, and you're so far removed because you're way off the beaten path.
It is truly,
Wyoming.
Yeah, it's just truly a wonderful place, and I will step aside, but that's part of what we're talking about tonight. But I just want to throw that in there. It's just get a chance this summer, definitely check it out.
All right, well, we are talking about the brand new book, Witch Creek, in the backcountry of Yellowstone. Funny Joel mentioned that. Evil moves below the surface. Following 9 of Stars, which is the previous book in the series, the next chapter in Laura Bickle's critically acclaimed Wildlands series is Witch Creek. As the daughter of an alchemist, Petra D has battled supernatural horrors and experienced astonishing wonders, but there's no magic on Earth that can defeat her recent cancer diagnosis, nor help her find her missing husband Gabriel. Still, she would bet all of her remaining days that the answer to his disappearance lies in the dark, subterranean world beneath the Rutherford Ranch on the outskirts of Temperance, Wyoming. Oh my goodness gracious. And who is our author? Our author is Laura Bickle. Laura Bickle grew up in rural Ohio, reading entirely too many comic books out loud to her favorite Wonder Woman doll. After graduating with an MA in Sociology and Criminology from Ohio State University and an MLIS in Library Science from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, she patrolled the stacks. I'm patrolling at the public library and worked with data systems in criminal justice. She now dreams up stories about the monsters under the stairs. Her work has been included in the ALA's Amelia Bloomer Project 2013 reading list and the State Library of Ohio's Choose to Read Ohio reading list for 2015 and 2016. Welcome to the program, Laura Bickle.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Hey, our pleasure. Our pleasure. And, of course, I'm a big comic book lover myself. What was your favorite? Who was your favorite comic book series?
Oh, gosh, I have to say it was Wonder Woman. And I grew up with the Linda Carter Wonder Woman on television.
Now, you are awesome. You are awesome because so did I. And I got to tell you, I'm not too proud to admit this. I might have had a crush on her back in those days, along with every other guy and whoever else running around. She was a fox and still is, by the way. They showed her on TV and she's still looking good, by the way. And wow, So yeah, that brings you right back. I like the Wonder Woman, but I also liked the X-Men, of course. And actually Superman. Superman was always my go-to. Something about the Man of Steel that I just really enjoyed reading. So that's cool. I like fellow comic book geeks.
Yeah, I loved Wonder Woman as a kid, and it was probably one of my first introductions to fantasy were the comic books that were at the corner store just down the street from our elementary school. That, and also gotta give a shout out to He-Man and the Masters of the Universe was definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, come on, Skeletor. Was there anything scarier than Skeletor? I mean, sure, you had He-Man, and you go, I have the power, and become He-Man, but Skeletor was always creepy. He didn't change into anything. He always looked creepy.
I gotta tell you, I went to a slumber party with a Masters of the Universe sleeping bag that had Skeletor and He-Man kind of fighting on the graphic on the top of it. Scared the heck out of the other girls there, and I was made to sleep in the other room.
Wow. They had no idea what good taste in comics was, did they? Are you kidding me?
No. Yeah, I know. I was ostracized because of a Skeletor sleeping bag.
They should have given you a high five and said, you go, girl.
Well, this was before She-Ra came along. I got a She-Ra bag after that, and I was allowed back in.
You were allowed in the fold after that. Okay,
you know what it was? It was an early Me Too moment.
Oh, yep.
Well,
All right, so tell us about the series.
Yeah.
Witch Creek is now the latest. I believe it's the third. Is that right? Iteration.
Mm-hmm. Actually, there were several books before it. I started off with Dark Alchemy, Mercury Retrograde. 9 of Stars was the last book, and this is actually book 4. So,
I was wrong.
Kind of fun to be hip deep in a series with monsters and undead cowboys and basilisks and all kinds of creatures roaming the backcountry of Yellowstone. It's a lot of fun.
Why Yellowstone, though? Why not like Texas? Why not this? Why not that? That conjures up cowboys. What was the allure of Yellowstone in your writing?
Well, a couple things. First of all, being from Ohio, I've hit like a lot of the supernatural sites in Ohio, like Serpent Mound, which is one of my all-time favorites. But my husband and I had taken a trip to, it's been several years ago, to Yellowstone for a conference, and he was at his conference all day, and I had time to play. So I was just enchanted by the setting. Like you said before, there is big magic there. I mean, it feels like there should be dragons in the mountains, and there should be something deep and supernatural moving beneath the earth, that there should be something in those underground rivers. And you visit places that Witch Creek is an actual place there, and there's a cave that exhales with the breath of a dragon.
I was going to say,
just like you would imagine.
I've been there.
You know?
And I remember hearing the cave exhaling, coming out with all the noxious fumes and just being loud, sounding like it should be alive. And if you went in that cave, you may be eaten, is how I felt. Like, wow, that thing may be alive, and it sounds angry.
And it all sits on top of a supervolcano that I hope stays dormant for the rest of our lives.
Right? That'd be a bad day when that thing kicks off. Make no plans because, things are pretty much done after that.
I don't like when the words super and volcano come together.
No. It's a bad time for all.
So, did you say this is the third or fourth in the series? It's
the fourth.
That's what I thought. And so this has been an ongoing, of course, story about this person, and then you grab Yellowstone. About when you were in Yellowstone, though, prepping your mind to write this book, was it the big sky that made you think whimsically more than anything else? Because for me at night in Yellowstone, when the stars are out and that big sky is a showing, anything could be possible.
It is, and it has such complete darkness there like we don't get in cities. And that's one of the things that I really love about rural fantasy, is that you can get your characters off into places where there is no cell reception, where there is total darkness, and with apologies to Alien, where nobody can hear you scream. And that, I think, is one of the things that is really overlooked when we talk about rural fantasy and Weird West.
I would agree. I would definitely agree because, not too many book series or movies, for that matter, have exploited that part of the nation. I've gone to like a Yellowstone because it truly is. When you're in Yellowstone, you could go days without seeing anyone else. It is a big place. And so I like the fact that you brought that in. Plus, it's a big, advertisement to our park systems. Go check it out. It's a lot of fun.
It's just amazing that a place like that is so accessible that you can actually, like you were talking about before, walk past these mud pots that are these technicolor colors that are belching up steam and they're hissing at you like they're alive. I mean, it is a tremendous, tremendous place. And so many places that seem so untouched by human habitation, by human hands in any way. And it just kind of, it has not changed for centuries. And it is really, I guess when I write books, one of the things I try to get in touch with first is the setting. And I usually come across the setting and then I think, bam, I've got to write a book about that. Wrote books about Detroit in that respect. And this was one of those places for me. I mean, just being there, I thought, wow, what is the spirit of this place? What is going on that may be just beyond the limits of human vision? I really want to know.
Now, do your characters, how do they come to you? Do they come to you organically? Do they almost just show up in imagination? How do you formulate the characters? Because we've had a lot of authors on, and they have wildly different ways that they say characters come to them. How do they come to you, the characters you write about?
Well, the characters for this book came to me sort of, I had this setting, I knew there had to be magic there, and I come across the idea that what if there was a guy who was an alchemist centuries ago, maybe about a century and a half ago, who had founded a town based on his conjuring gold from alchemy. What if this old alchemist had kind of finally figured out that secret and created his own alchemical projects and monsters that kind of wandered through the countryside? So I had a good handle on what the past was of this place, and I wanted to create a relatable protagonist. So I wanted somebody who was ordinary, not somebody who had godlike magic or anything like that. So I came up with Petra D., who is a geologist, who is a skeptic, who's very much like Agent Scully in the X-Files, who winds up being dropped into this tiny town of Temperance, where there are undead cowboys and monsters kind of lurking in the night. And it really, it bakes her noodle. And she struggles to explain it very much as I think that we would if we were walking into a situation like that. And she is joined by a coyote sidekick, Sig, who may or may not be the coyote, with a capital C, and an undead cowboy, Gabriel, who was hanged from the alchemical tree of life 2 centuries ago. And he's sort of a kind of an undead creature who has to return to this tree every night if he wants to survive. So lots of fun stuff to play with that, that big sky country.
Sure, he's got to show up to recharge is what he's got to do.
He's actually got to rot and then be reformed. It's kind of a disgusting process because I did not want any glittery undead.
I was going to say, how did a nice girl like you come across? He has to rot first. Let's make him rot.
I just wanted it to be, non-romantic in that way. So when they get together later, it's out of, true devotion and not.
Oh, Laura,
wow,
there's very few things less romantic than rotting flesh.
True.
Unless you're a necrophiliac,
well,
of course.
That's true, too.
Well, it's not like that. Trust me.
So tell us about your character, your Petra, your protagonist. How did you develop her? I know you said you wanted someone ordinary. What other characteristics did you wish to imbue upon her? And has she changed over the 4 books?
Yeah, she really has. That's kind of one of the challenges of writing a character over the series. You have to give them a character arc in each book, a middle, a beginning, and an end.
Sure.
But also have them evolve over several books. I initially had her coming to the town of Temperance to look for her father, who had gone missing when she was a teenager. And her dad was kind of a kooky chemist kind of guy who was into some questionable stuff. And she falls in with some drug-dealing alchemist and eventually finds her dad, who has wound up in a nursing home, who is in a catatonic state. So she initially goes out with this kind of personal mission, and she winds up getting a job working as a geologist and kind of looking at some of the unusual facets of the park. And she runs across just kind of a strange cast of characters that are kind of evolving through the book. There's one character in this book who is the bartender for the town. There is a church in the town that has stood for a couple of centuries. And an enterprising fellow decided that he was going to go ahead and turn this into a bar, because what else would you do with a church that no one attends? So he's kind of a supernatural creature as well, and he makes an appearance in this book.
Oh, very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, the father, you said, is a chemist. Was he making crystals in an RV somewhere in the middle of the desert? Or am I thinking of a whole different thing?
Some of his contemporaries actually were. He actually realized that he was suffering from Alzheimer's and was trying to find an alchemical cure. He was kind of curious about alchemy himself, became quite an accomplished alchemist, but then kind of wound up imprisoned in his own head.
Sure. Well, I guess I should let's go back up a little bit, because it just popped into me in our Facebook chat. What the heck is alchemy? What is alchemy?
Ah, okay. Alchemy was the forerunner of modern chemistry. There were a bunch of people over the centuries and actually thousands of years who have wanted 2 primary things, and these are things that we still really want in the modern world. First is gold. People were trying to figure out how to turn a base metal or just an ordinary rock and turn it into gold. That was kind of one of the first aims of alchemy. And the second was to achieve immortal life. So there was the idea that with the Philosopher's Stone, one could accomplish one or both of these goals. So a lot of the men and women who were alchemists all the way through the Middle Ages were developing a lot of the scientific techniques that we use today in laboratories, and kind of accidentally hit upon some of the enduring properties of minerals and did a lot of cataloging and recording of these things. And the kind of the mystical aspect of it kind of fell away.
So they're kind of like the forerunners of today's chemists.
Exactly.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Because alchemy, I'm looking at it. Wow, it's been around a long time, and they're pretty wow, they knew a lot back then, because I stumbled upon the alchemy website, and it's even used to this day. Alchemy.
Well,
in psychological sense, yes.
Isaac Newton was an alchemist.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Everyone was.
The Queen of England had one.
Sure. I mean, it's still surviving to this day. So that is super, super cool that you're able to bring this ancient art into the book and really make it a key player of the book as well. It's almost like its own character in a lot of ways.
It is, and each book kind of, as a theme, deals with one of the 7 alchemical processes. The alchemists believed that you had to go through these 7 processes to purify the base metal and to turn it into gold. And, it's kind of useful to have kind of a thematic shorthand. I'm working on a book right now that's dealing with the fermentation stage of alchemy, which is when everything rots. So I get to deal with rotting, really disgusting monsters, and I can't wait for that.
Yay! No, it sounds like a hoot and a holler, but did you have to study alchemy in preparation? Did you have to, dive right into it, or do you just kind of, look it up as you go?
Alchemy is one of those subjects I've been really into for a long period of time. I love to curate books about the weird and the strange, particularly if they have some historical significance. So I do have a bunch of Easter eggs in the book about historical alchemists. Many of the characters are named after them. And only a few readers have actually caught on to that to this point, which is a lot of fun. But, I always wanted to write a book about alchemy. I thought, well, maybe I could do a historical book, but that would probably be kind of boring and probably wouldn't gather that many readers. And then that was kind of boiling in the back of my head at a kind of a low simmer for a while. And then when I went and I saw Yellowstone, I thought, this is the place. This is the place where I can connect that idea of alchemy with this setting.
Sure. I mean, I'd love to learn how to make gold. I mean, that'd be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine that, making your own gold? Sure.
One of the appeals, I think, of alchemy is that it has such a long history, and even now, to this day, as you said, kind of when you were your first words about, okay, so what is alchemy? To this day, it's kind of like just out of reach. Well, maybe we just need to know a little bit more, and then we really will be able to transform lead into gold, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's something that retains its allure throughout the centuries. It's not something that really becomes that dated. I think that's part of it, of the appeal.
Right, and these are two things that human beings have always wanted. We want wealth and we want to live forever, and those are timeless concepts, whether in literature or anywhere else. These have always motivated people, and it's just kind of interesting to see what people would have done in order to achieve it.
Yeah, you're right. That has been the motivation. Living forever, and wealth are the two things that we've all chased after, mankind, that is. Even today, we are still trying to figure out how to beat the clock and how to get richer, and so really things have not changed a whole lot over the years.
No, I don't think so. And in studying alchemy, I think that there is some merit also to looking at alchemy from a psychological perspective. I know that there are some people that believe that you can go through these 7 stages in a spiritual way and somehow achieve enlightenment by kind of shedding the physical constraints and the impurities that we kind of pick up being living creatures on Earth. And that's kind of an interesting viewpoint too. And I think alchemy has had kind of a renewed interest from that audience as well.
Yeah, I've noticed that more and more, especially in the paranormal circles, of course, alchemy making a comeback and purification. And, things like that, that same mindset that they were having, we pick up junk as we go across this world. And,
right, and sometimes you just need salt to clear it.
sometimes that's what you need. Just a good old detoxification regimen. I believe that. I think that we all pick up our own junk as we go, and that's a really useful skill or useful mindset to have to detox and center oneself again.
Right, to get grounded and to reckon with whatever it is that we've picked up, make peace with it, eject it, and replace it with something better. And that's something that my characters try to do. I also kind of try to keep those psychological things in mind as they're moving along, because nobody gets through life unscathed.
No, what a great poet once said: "No one gets out of here alive."
Exactly.
Hey, we still have about 6-7 minutes before the bottom of the hour. Love to hear. We're always interested. I'm a writer myself. Always interested to hear about the writing process. Obviously, you were interested all along, and you had this reading habit, and you became a librarian, and so on and so forth, or at least got an advanced degree in it. So, how did you make that leap from being a reader to being a professional writer, and how did you choose this genre, kind of dark fantasy?
Wow, this is a question with a long answer. I guess I had never really thought that I could make a living as a writer, because I didn't know anybody who did. People that I grew up with, just had regular jobs and did regular things, so that's what I intended to do. I went into criminal justice, and I worked at our local jail for more than 10 years, and, but I was always writing on the side. I was always, wanting to create stories, and I wasn't really certain that anybody would really want to read them. But then I got a break, and I thought, wow, maybe somebody actually does want to read my creepy stories. What the heck? So I took a leap of faith and decided to try something new, and this is the something new. I've been published since 2010, and it's been kind of a wild ride. I mean, it has not been anything like I expected it to be, not at all. And some ways it's very much like a regular job. I mean, you've got to, set a schedule, and you got to meet deadlines, and you've got to, there's the same amount of frustrations and aggravations that go along with any other job that I've had. But this is really, I think, more of a labor of love than anything.
So you've been lucky enough to become a full-time writer. Do you have a day job, or is this it right here? This is what you become as a full-time novelist.
This is my job. This is my job.
You know how many people kill to have your job? And really, I mean, there's so many writers, other great writers, that I come in contact with, and they go, you never get rich writing books. You do it for the love.
True.
But, some do, obviously, and some do good enough to make a living out of it. I mean, I don't want you to give up your secrets, but what advice would you have for the would-be author out there right now? Hearing this going, man, but how do I break through?
Couple keys, I think. Productivity and flexibility. Productivity being that, I wish I had the level of brilliance that I could produce, a book a year and that was it, or a book every 2 years, and, people would be throwing six-figure contracts at me, and, that I wish that was my life.
Me too. I wish I had that life. That'd be awesome.
I know. But it's not. And I realize that I've got to produce, a lot of work on a regular basis. If need be, I have to be able to produce a book within months. To that end, I recommend folks try National Novel Writing Month. That's NaNoWriMo.org at least once. Get your book done, and then do it over again, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again. That's not just to say, vomit crap out on the page and hope somebody will buy it, but by doing, we increase our skill and we become stronger. And
Sure.
I really think that people need to push out of their comfort zones on that a lot of the time.
Yeah.
That and flexibility. Once you sell your book to an editor, it becomes a team project. They will have preferences, and they will have things that they will want to do with the book, and you have to realize that my story has flown the nest. I have a group of people working on it now who have its best interests at heart, and I'm going to have to make changes.
Yeah, because I've met so many authors over the years that view their books, their works, like babies, like their children, and they have a hard time letting go to some extent and allowing the process to happen, almost to their own detriment at times. And I could see that, though. I mean, loving your art so much that you don't want it tampered with, but at the end of the day, it has to be improved upon, and that any great art will stand the test of time, including being improved upon.
I have, owed my bacon so many times to copy editors and proofreaders and content editors who have caught the most moronic mistakes or who have had suggestions for things that would work so much better. And I think when we get too close to our art, we can't see it, and we need other eyes, people who are going to be proxies for our readers who will say,
Sure.
Hey, that's dumb. Why do you have a penguin here on page 161? You're not in any place where there would be a penguin. And this is not a hallucination sequence.
Yeah. How many rewrites do you go through? I mean, how, on average, the average author, how many rewrites are there to a book? From the idea to actual on the shelf.
Well, my progress is probably kind of weird. Writers, we talk about plotters and pantsers. And plotters are the people who plan beforehand, and pantsers are the people who go where the story takes them. And by necessity, I wind up being a plotter. So what I usually do is I work up a synopsis, about 3 to 5 pages about the book. and it kind of deals with the character arcs and the story arcs and just kind of a general, hey, roadmap of where I want to go.
Okay.
And I take this to my agent or to my editor or whoever I'm working with at the time and say, hey, does this suck? Is this something you want to see? Is this something you could sell? And, most of the time they're like, oh, hey, yeah, we like this. Sometimes they're like, did you know that somebody else did something similar to this 2 years ago? Or, I don't like this middle part. Yeah. And at that stage, I can make a lot of the changes preemptively without having to do major rewrites at the end, which I know people who do that, and it sucks for them.
I would imagine that's a lot of work, and of course, the plotting would be the way to go rather than the Panther part of it. And, for me anyway, because I'm a planner, I'm very methodical anyway in my radio career, so I would probably be a plotter just like you are if I decide to write a book. We have to get out of here. When we come back, we have a lot more to go over with Laura. Laura Bickle, everybody, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
Your ideas, work, and creativity that make it your yard. At Ace, we're here to help with hoses and sprinklers to nurture growth, gardening tools for the shape of good things to come, even the right fertilizer and bug killers to make the grass a little greener. You'll find it all now at Ace, your place, with everything you need for your yard, plus helpful advice, almost like we're right there. Ace,
the helpful place. Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin' Street? Girlin' Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Do you have a question for our guest tonight? Don't feel like calling the show? Not a problem. Email those questions to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Again, that's afterhoursam@gmail.com. Welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me, as always,
Eric Olson.
And tonight we're talking with Laura Bickle. Man,
we're going to tar her.
I know for the last 3 days. For the last 3 days, I have had the driest throat in the free world. Like, so excuse me while I stumble and bumble a bit over my own chapped lips over here, but we will get through this. I swear to God we will. And Laura, you are such a great author, but I want to go a little bit left to center here and ask you, do you believe in ghosts? I mean, where do you stand on the paranormal? What do you think is real and what's not?
Oh, I think there are all kinds of weird things out there that we can't and probably shouldn't explain entirely. I think the world's just so much more interesting that way. Mm-hmm. I think that, I don't know where that comes from. I think that probably it started with, I think like most teenagers, I had some, ill-fated adventures with the Ouija board and,
Haven't we all? Come on.
I mean.
There I was, just me and the Ouija. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I might have partaken in the old talking board when I was a kid more than I should have.
And, I grew up in a rural area. What are you going to do for fun? You go to the mall in Parkersburg, West Virginia, and at the toy store, they had it right there.
It's tip cows and do Ouija boards. That's really all you can do in a rural area.
Yeah, pretty much. there were a lot of, I think, myths about things and legends and stories of where I grew up about, supernatural things. Like there was a hill. It was a forested hill, and this is pretty close to West Virginia, but still on the Ohio side of the Ohio River. And there was this rumor of milling millstones. There were these several 100-pound millstones that were left over from, whenever they were crunching grain or doing whatever it is they do with millstones.
Yeah.
At the top of this hill. And, as kids, you go, sneak onto the property and go take a look at it. And, then you come back a few months later and the millstones would have moved. We're all like, oh, it's the milling millstones. It's the milling millstones.
Gotcha.
And, I figured that it was probably some guy with a, front loader who changed, or an end loader who kind of changed stuff around just to keep us amused. But it was great.
I'll show those kids. They're going to be scared, half senseless, and I'm done with this. Let me tell you. Well,
right,
yeah, everybody has that lore, though. I mean, growing up, there was a place when I was growing up we used to call Beer Can Hill. How it got the name, I do not know. So don't even ask. I just know that was the local lore, Beer Can Hill. And there was a house on Beer Can Hill that if you were brave, you would stay a couple hours or even a night for the really brave. I mean, this was a pretty dilapidated house, okay? I'm not saying like it was a nice house at all, but the story goes it has, supposedly crazy haunted, and if you're tough and brave, you could spend a night in Beer Can Hill. It was like a rite of passage, and I did that. I went up to Beer Can Hill. I did, and I stayed a night in Beer Can Hill. And it was definitely a crazy joint. Don't get me wrong. I mean, between the footsteps and everything else, I got scared. I got actually very scared. But what I did wrong was me and another guy. Well, we said, just drop us off there. Well, come get us in the morning. Oh my God, I wish we would not have done that. I wish, because it got real in there. I mean, that was my very first brush with like a haunted house, other than my own I grew up in, but a malevolent, almost feeling haunted house. And of course, when you're in a situation like that, your senses are so much heightened because you're waiting. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because the lore of the place is hitting you now. Everyone else's stories are hitting you. So every little creak and groan and every wind blowing is a ghost. So, I mean, that could have been that. But that was my story, Beer Can Hill. There you go.
I actually lived in a haunted house for 6 months. That was as long as I could last.
Really? Last, you say? Or wow, was it that bad?
That was as long as I last. Well, it wasn't, I think, as bad as, some of the stories that you hear from people who have really hostile entities hanging out with them.
I have heard those, yes. They're nasty, but I hear you.
Yeah. It was, usually I don't make bad mistakes about locations, but I was taking a new job. This was I was moving out of the city because I'd had enough of the city, and I was moving to a rural county in Ohio, and I was looking for a house to rent. And I found this house, this brick house in a valley. It was, just a couple years old, recently built. And, the landlord seemed like an okay kind of guy, and the sun was shining, and it was in a meadow, and there was a creek that went through the meadow, and I was like, oh, this is it, this will be perfect.
This is paradise.
This will be a place for me to, right, yeah. For a country girl like me, heck yeah,
Yeah, why not? It sounds beautiful.
It was, and I moved into it, and the air was just totally thick with ladybugs. I mean, it's like the mover said, do you really want us to move your stuff into this Amityville horror house? And I'm like, I don't have any place else to put
that was
stuff.
the movers?
You gotta put it in there.
That was the movers saying that to you?
They're like,
wow.
Yeah, they're like, we'll take this stuff and put it someplace else. And I'm like, well, I don't have any place else to put my stuff, whatever.
Wow.
So I was just like, I did battle with the ladybugs, and I was like, okay, fine, this is something that I can, thousands and thousands, and they were everywhere and in everything, and I just, but that probably wasn't supernatural. Things got really weird over the fall and winter. I discovered that this house was less than 2 miles down the road from a mine disaster that had killed like 15 people.
Oh.
And, yeah. And there was a lightning-struck tree on this property that, I was just kind of out walking around. It was kind of in the edge of the woods, and I hadn't seen it when I had first seen the house. And I was walking around in the dead of winter. And it was half the tree was blackened, and the other half seemed like it had still been alive in the fall. And I looked down into this tree, and it was just seething with this black stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. Wintertime, there wouldn't be snakes. Don't know what that is, but I think I'm not going to deal with this.
Yeah, you may not. You may want to steer clear of that.
Yeah. So, yeah, it wasn't cool. And then, like, people would come to visit me, my family would come and they would just refuse to stay because they'd have horrible dreams. And it was an oppressive atmosphere. I don't have any really, things to say, stuff moved and the furniture moved around and there was blood on the, nothing like that. It was just a really oppressive atmosphere, and it was like nothing I had ever felt before. And I've been to a lot of weird places. I mean, hey, I worked in a jail that was supposed to be haunted, okay?
Sure.
The jail was nothing like this.
Wow, even the jail had a lighter atmosphere than that place?
Yes.
Wow,
yes.
that's saying
I stuck it out
something.
for like 12 years at the jail, man.
You're tough then, because I'd be in the corner crying within, 10 minutes, at the jail.
No, the thing with the jail is that while there's, unease there's enough human activity at all hours that it's not.
Yeah.
You're distracted.
It keeps things stirred. Yes, it keeps things stirred up, and you're kind of more focused on other things, like, does that guy have a spork or what? In his hand.
You would love our other co-host on Wednesdays, Dr. Cole. She's a forensic psychologist for the state of California. And boy,
cool.
does she tell tales about life on the inside. And let me tell you, I'm not a guy that could do life on the inside. No. First, I like privacy when I have to use the facilities, number one. Number two, I don't want to be stabbed. That's high on my list right there, is not being stabbed. But that's right behind the privacy thing. So stabbing is number two. But number one is privacy. So, would not do well.
Yeah.
So.
No, I'm with you on that entirely. It totally convinced me that I don't even want to spend the night in jail for even something like a traffic infraction or something. No, I do not want to do this. I like being on this side.
Exactly. And so you worked in the jail. So you're in this house that is thicker and more oppressive than a jail that you worked in. What was the breaking point? What made you move?
I was never able to sleep in that house. I would do things like I would try to sleep with the television on downstairs, in the living room, and it was a constant feeling, I think, of being watched. This house had a lot of windows, and the previous residents had never put curtains up, and I, of course, put up curtains the first night I was there.
Sure.
But it was just this constant, and it was very still and very silent, and this watching sense. And then my alarm system would go off for no reason at odd times. I mean, it was. I put one in.
All the earmarks of a haunting, my friend. The feeling.
Creepy.
Exactly.
I actually got a ticket from the highway patrol on account of my alarm system going off one time, and I was racing home to think, "Oh gosh, what's happened?" And got nabbed by the highway patrol for speeding, and then they escorted me back to the house.
Oh, that was awfully nice of them. Did they go in, or did they say, "Oh, hell no, we're not going in there"? We heard about that place.
It was a jurisdictional thing. The highway patrol could not actually take me to my house, so he called sheriff's deputies to take me to my house, because I was like, look, I think that there's somebody breaking into my house. My alarm system is going off. And he was like, look, this isn't my jurisdiction, but I should send somebody with you since you've told me this. And I'm like, oh, great.
Well, thank
what a total mess.
Yeah, right?
Clearly a paranormal crime has been committed.
Exactly. So these nice gentlemen, they go into the house and they've got their hands on their guns and whatever, and they search the house and they find nothing, but the alarm is just going off for no reason, and I'm feeling like a total moron. But
I've had the alarms go off though when I've had places with those advanced systems.
Really?
Well, sometimes, but because it was a haunted house, and so the same thing would happen with me is I would get that, and one thing you never want to do, guys, unless some people do it and it's just fine, but in my case, do not install cameras on the inside of your house. You may not want to see what you capture. I'm just saying, a little FYI.
Really, what did you see?
I don't want to.
Oh, we would.
Captured.
I thought I had this 8-camera system with a DVR, so I put 4 outside. I thought, well, I got a better idea. I'm going to put 4 on the inside. So I put in living areas, living room, kitchen, the normals, the normal places.
Mm-hmm.
And the weirdest things I would capture on this DVR system. I would see mists that were triggering the motion sensor, just coming by, like meandering by, and I mean not like a ghost, like you couldn't tell any kind of body figure, but it was just like a mist, just crossing the room. And of course, I'd look at it, I'd show it to other people, like, oh, it could have been humidity, could have been this, could have been that, but really it happened very frequently. And this mist would cross one camera, but then it'd go to the next room and it'd trigger the next one.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, so it was like it was making its way through the home. And so after I did that for a little while, I never saw anything, never felt anything weird, but it was just these cameras that go off. And I think I caught that 2 or 3 different occasions with this mist, this non-humanoid or anything mist, just a mist, would appear and it would make its way through the house. And so at that point, I was thinking, you know what? I'm going to shut off these indoor cameras and I'll just stick with the outdoor ones. Ignorance is bliss, and man, do I like to be blissful.
Me too. Hey, I'd love to shift this sort of combination now of the real world and the really actually very interesting and varied experiences that you've had, but then maybe plugging that back into your writing. Have you ever had any what felt to be, if not paranormal, maybe kind of uncanny experiences while you were writing? And have your characters ever taken on a life of their own?
Well, I keep my characters pretty well, tethered to the page, but I don't know if this counts as a paranormal thing, and hopefully I won't get yelled at for doing this. But one of the things that I do use while writing is our tarot cards. If I get stuck on a plot point, I pull one, or if I'm stuck on the personality of a character, I pull another one. And I find that a lot of the archetypes and situations depicted in the cards are, they kind of plug into our collective unconscious.
Sure it does. And, I'm an amateur tarot reader, so I'm hearing you.
Yeah, my collection is getting pretty vast. It's got its own bookcase at this point.
Really? I only have one set, and the reason why I only have one set is because the cards pick you. You don't pick the cards.
This is true.
And I got the old Rider-Waite set. I can't remember. It's very old that I got, and it was given to me by a good friend, and I was going to buy it off him. He says, nope, the cards pick you. You don't pick the cards. And so, all right. And so I kept them, and once in a while I'll break them out and do readings. But, yeah, that's cool. I like that aspect. Writing, and you use the tarot to kind of lead your way in some aspects. That's a very cool factor to that.
And it's kind of great when you're doing character profiles because, the tarot has uprights and it has reversals. If you're looking for character weaknesses, you can just, think about what the reversal is for the card. Or, the reverse of any given situation, maybe what your character has to learn. Or, I think it's kind of a great way to, break up writer's block if you're stuck and don't know where to go next. And
well, what do you do though when you get the Tower or the Death card? I mean, what do you do? Is that at that point?
That is awesome. That means I get to set something on fire or blow something up.
I was going to say, because the tower, the tower is on firm ground. I mean, that's a tower falling. And then, of course, the death doesn't mean death. Sometimes it means a new beginning, a death of the old and the new. So, yeah, I mean, that's cool.
Hey, it's no mistake that the town in my series is named Temperance.
Very true. Yeah. Well, I like the tarot. Yeah. I like that. I like the fact that you're incorporating the tarot, and in a lot of ways, though. I mean, is it reading you or is it reading the character?
It could be doing, yeah. I am open to it.
Which is the tarot tapping into? I mean, that's what people would say. It's tapping into someone's consciousness, but is it yours or is it your character's? So, yeah, very, very cool. No, but tarot has been a cool thing. I learned how to read, and, of course, it sounds like you're really good at it, but it's kind of a learning curve to go with it. The memorization is the hardest part for me, was not having to break out the book and look up the definitions. It took a little while to get it, but I did get it. But, so what's your favorite deck? Which is your favorite deck of tarot? Who makes the favorite one for you?
A lot of people kind of return to the deck that they learned on, and I do that. I have a lot of decks, and I use them for various purposes, and they're fun, and, some or there's a deck that I consult for when, if I'm gardening or something. I think, I don't know where the heck I want to plant this flower. Let me, pick a card and, it's a wands. Well, let's go plant this, in the south. Yeah. But I usually return to the deck that I learned on, which is the Hanson-Roberts deck. And I know that, people are like, that deck's for kids. But it really, I think for me, when I was learning, at 16 years old, it was a very kind of benign-appearing deck, but had all of the classic Rider-Waite imagery in it, so I could learn the symbols. And, yeah, I go back to it.
Now, have you incorporated the tarot, though, actual tarot reading into the story? Are you going to have a tarot reader at some point?
I have done that.
Okay, I didn't know if you'd done that or not, if you've actually incorporated a reader. And that is super cool.
I actually, under a pseudonym, Elena Williams, I wrote a couple of books about a criminal profiler who uses tarot cards to solve crimes. And that was a lot of fun because I got to include some of the tarot spreads. When the investigator, pulls some cards to try to figure out where the criminal is or what they're thinking, I just pulled those spreads at random and included them in the book.
Here comes the full Celtic cross. Hold on.
Yes, hold on. Hold on.
You got a half hour to kill? Okay, here we go. There's the full cross. There you go.
Here we go.
Yeah. No, that is very cool. What did your family, were they supportive, like when you were learning tarot, or did you kind of hide it from them that you're learning tarot? Because I had to hide it from mine. I was like, no, I don't want to talk to you about that. It's just a deck of playing cards. Were they open to it?
Since I was a teenager, of course, I didn't tell them anything. And, the deck lived under my bed in a shoebox. I generally, keep that part of my life kind of separate from family because,
I hear you. I know that feeling. I know that feeling all too well of separating the two. Because
don't cross the streams.
That's exactly right. Because never give a family member a tarot reading. Number one, never.
Never. Oh gosh,
just don't do it. Leave it to.
Well, what you should do is you take them to church and you give the minister a reading. That's how you handle it.
Yeah, no,
Eric. I don't know if that'd fly very well. I'm gonna say he would not appreciate that.
Did you actually give a family member a tarot reading?
I have, yes. I have.
How'd that go?
Not so good. I mean, it wasn't horrible. Thank God they didn't get the death card or the tower, but it wasn't what they were hoping to hear. They wanted fortune and fame and love and glory, and they got a whole lot of fighting and hard work in front of them. And so that was my last time I gave a family member a tarot reading because, of course, I was to blame. Read me again.
Oh, but you were accurate.
I was accurate, and that's what they had in front of them. And then, of course, everybody, this individual wanted to know whether or not a windfall of money was on their way. And when it was clear it was not, and they ended up getting the Fool card in there as well, which is sometimes not the greatest thing in the world. It depends on the context, though. It all depends on the context of the card, where it's placed. But, I learned that really, really quickly. Don't do that. In fact, I haven't read for anybody in quite some time, although I do threaten to do that live in air once in a while, or read people.
Oh, that would be fun. You should do that.
Yeah, I've thought about it, and I probably will. I'll have to start slow, and I'll read Eric one night.
There you go.
Exactly. But, tell us more about the other books you've written. I know you've written a ton of them. And what other cool books you have floating around out there?
Well, my first book that I got published was with Pocket Books. It's called Embers, and it's about a woman who is an arson investigator and her fire salamander familiar. He's about 5 feet long and invisible to everybody else but her. And she also works as a ghost hunter at night. So that was kind of a fun series.
Well, that's a different combination. Fire investigator by day, ghost hunter at night.
Well, you got to have something to do at night.
You got to have something to do. I mean, have you ever gone on a ghost hunt? By the way, have you ever actually gone on one?
Not on an organized one. No,
you'd
I've
have
done
a lot
poking
of
around
fun.
on my own, but
they can be fun. Yeah, they're not too bad.
I don't want to bring anything home, though. I don't want to bring anything home. That's my thing.
Well, that is the danger. All I do is if I do, I threaten to charge them rent, and then they leave.
Oh.
I just say,
Okay.
if you stick around, I'm just going to charge you rent. You might want to leave. But that does happen though. That is a real danger. We've had a lot of investigators on the show, and you're absolutely correct. That is can be a real danger of being a ghost hunter or paranormal investigator. Is whenever you put yourself out there to that era, that side, it very well easily things do and can attach.
Especially when you do it long term, because you're kind of having to up the ante, over time, and especially these people who are very much in the public, whether they're on TV shows or YouTube or whatever. But they, you can see it when you observe them over time or talk to them at different points in their career that they're kind of escalating because you got to do something. People want more, and then they hit. Have some sort of, hopefully not too bad, but we've talked to people who've had real crises. It's led to divorce. It's led to,
possession.
And possession. It's led to oppression. Substance abuse. All kinds of problems. And depression. And then you got to really back up and retreat and figure it out. And approach things differently. So it's been very interesting to see some of these people we've been talking to for, going on 10 years now, and to see the path that their careers have taken. Mm-hmm. But inevitably, they end up having some sort of, experience that they can no longer control, that they no longer can dictate, and then you just really have to back off. And usually, most people from then on are much more cautious about the way they go about it.
Yeah, I know that even just like working in the jail. There was a visualization I would do every morning before I would walk in there. The whole bubble of white light thing.
Yep.
You just and I can't imagine what you guys do. How going into some place that has something destructive in it. What do you do? Do you zip up your aura? How do you keep that at bay?
What I do is I just, set a very firm boundary for myself. Mentally, you will not come with me. You will not follow me. You will not affect me. Sometimes it works. Other times it has not worked. I've brought things home and I've seen things in my home and it just, it works, but then other times it doesn't. A lot of people have a lot of different techniques that work, but it all comes down to one thing equally, in my opinion, is intent. The intent of protection. Whether it's sage or a Wheaties box, for crying out loud, whatever you want, as long as it's the intent involved in protecting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it seems to be to me anyway. Just like people that do home clearings, again, intent, it's very much intentional. It's the intent you put behind it.
And that you're in charge.
That you're large and you are in charge. Yeah, exactly.
That you're the one calling the shots, and that you do not give permission for anyone to follow you or to influence yours or others. And it may or may not have a religious component. Often it does, but there's a number of people who go out there and do kind of the same things without it being a religious, specifically, right as far as they're concerned. But many, many do because, why not, right? It's like anything that helps, yes.
Exactly. You're absolutely correct, Eric. Anything that helps, anything you believe in. But I poking around on your own, though, that can be a dangerous thing as well. You're actually almost more prone when you're by yourself to run into things.
Yeah, I have not. Most of the time when I've been poking around on my own, it's been purely by accident that I've run across something,
Sure.
It's not been an intentional, hey, I'm going to go check out this place and see if it's kind of, the things that you run across just, living day-to-day life.
So you're not going to you're not going to do a paranormal lockdown somewhere, is what you're saying. You're not going you're not going to do that.
If somebody were to write me a check, I would probably think about it. But
well, I would have to think about that as well. 24 hours. $10,000, you say.
Is there indoor plumbing in this place?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in.
And does it have Wi-Fi?
Ooh, that's a good point.
Well,
good point.
We have 30 seconds left. Why don't you tell the audience where they can find your books and where they can find you and all that good stuff?
Well, my latest book is Witch Creek, and a bunch of my other books are also up on my website, which is www.laurabickle.com. That's LAURA, B as in blue, ICKLE.com. And links to my Twitter and Pinterest and Instagram and all that other good stuff are also there.
Very, very cool. Laura Bickle, everybody. Check out the books. Great stuff. It's available, especially on Amazon. And I like that because I bundle a lot of books together on Amazon and have them all shipped to your house. So check it all out. And again, Laura, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great fun.
Absolutely. Until next time, everyone, take care of each other, love each other, and hey, think about that white light.
Thank you for listening to this edition of After Hours AM, and please remember to like us on Facebook and also follow us over on Twitter.